The crybaby Emmanuel Macron has cancelled his meeting with Priti Patel, and the Labour Party and Sir Keir Starmer have decided to take France's side over the border crisis. Right, I'm sure you've already heard the news about Priti Patel being uninvited to a crucial meeting about British border, about the migrant crisis. So the European countries like France have decided to have their own meeting, not invite Priti. Why? Because they are sad. They are upset because Boris Johnson decided to write a letter before that meeting. This is absolutely astonishing. This news that came out earlier. And so last night, essentially, Boris Johnson wrote this letter to Macron. He published it online on Twitter. And I've read the letter. I mean, there's this point right now. I am blaming all sides overall when it comes to this migrant crisis. And the border force here and the Home Office have a responsibility, but also the French have a responsibility to cooperate because they have promised. That's the thing. They're breaking their own agreement. Now, Emmanuel Macron has accused Boris Johnson and the UK government for not being serious, for being childish. The French government that have decided to cancel Priti Patel's meeting. Who's being childish now, Macron? Who's not being serious at this point? This is actually going to escalate over the next week or so because the bullet points that Boris Johnson has outlined in his letter, it's not really that unreasonable. I mean, part of it is essentially to make sure that both countries and both governments work together to patrol the area, the waters that we have, and also to use advanced technology, the sensors and radar and everything else like that. It's essentially to make sure that both sides, the UK Border Force and the Federal authorities, are not really being complacent, so they can't really shift the blame like they have done for years and years. And one of the points is the whole joint intelligence cell, to make sure that they do actually share intelligence with each other, to make sure that they also go after the smugglers. At this point, I feel like the French actually don't want to get rid of the smugglers. They want them to continue to operate, and this is quite sad. That's not the main problem. We have the Labour Party and Nick Thomas-Symonds, who's the Shadow Home Secretary, going on TV, essentially taking France's side. This is really bad. Look at this.
This is a humiliation for a Prime Minister and a Home Secretary who've completely lost control of the situation in the Channel at the very moment when the Prime Minister needed to be a statesman to actually deal with this. What we saw instead was a grave error of judgment in putting a public letter on Twitter where he was trying to seek international cooperation, and it's ended up within a matter of hours.
Okay, so that he wants him to be a statesman. He wrote a letter. He, again, was going ahead with the meeting to make sure that he's talking with his allies. I'm not really sure at this point how we can call France a full ally, the fact that they're not really helping us anymore. But this is going to escalate. The rest of tonight's show, the future and upcoming uploads on this channel, we're going to focus on Priti Patel, the legal action against Priti Patel from some left-wing charities and organizations, and we're going to be talking about how this is going to be the next big battle for Boris Johnson's leadership. If he really wants to stay as Prime Minister, he needs to prove us wrong, and Priti Patel as well. I mean, don't get me started with that. So if you want to stay up to date, make sure to click subscribe and click on the bell next to it so you get notified when I release the upcoming videos. I'm Tousi, and we are the media.